How many of you all have a Lenten discipline already figured out? Whoa, tough crowd. Well, I'm actually going to simplify the process for you a little bit here. I'm going to get all of the stress off of you and put all of the stress onto God. Because that's really a reorientation in this season, these 40 days, doesn't include the Sundays, by the way, these 40 days in which we discover our belovedness. When I say the word discipline, people have different reactions. There are those who do not want to get out of bed in the morning. There are those whom we have to prompt to brush their teeth. There are those whom we have to prompt to do their schoolwork. I'm not just talking about kids either. All kids are somewhat like that. And then there's the opposite of that. Then there are what we'll call the Marine Corps discipline kind of folks. They're up at 4 o'clock every morning. They're ready for inspection. The floors are mopped. They would never dream of leaving the house without making their bed. Discipline strikes us in different ways. But the root word of discipline comes from being a student. What if our disciplines this Lent were less about what we did, or for that matter didn't do, and more about our listening at the feet of the same nail-scarred person that we claim to worship? What would that kind of a Lent be? I think it'd be very different. And I think it would pull us more into the truer sense of what it is that Jesus wanted for us in the first place. You remember there's that peculiar group of people, the ones that kept deriding everything that Jesus did. You know, you hear people, they don't even wash their hands before they eat. They're just sloppy in their spirituality. But they kept every little law so perfectly, but they had nothing in their hearts. God deliver us from having that same sick sense of priorities that the Pharisees had. To think it's all about us. As Christians who say we believe in the tenets of the Reformation, we realize that we are justified by faith alone. We aren't justified by things we do. But there is that little creeping voice in us that says that we still somehow have to do something because we aren't worthy. But we are worthy. We've been made worthy. And because we've been made worthy, we can look at Lent as sort of a spiritual housekeeping, if you will. A way in which we can find those things, those parts of our spirituality that work and those things that don't. Be willing to give up the things that burden our relationship with God. And also embrace new things, new forms of spirituality that help us really understand who God is. I'm going to bring into, since I get to preach in a Lutheran church, and I think that's actually the first time I've ever done that, I'm going to bring into it a little act of piety that Martin Luther did. And it fits perfectly with the gospel lesson for the day. When you fast, wash your face. It was a spiritual act that Martin Luther did to wash his face as a remembrance each and every day. You know, this is back in the days when people didn't take showers every day. But he'd get up and he'd wash his face and remind himself of his baptism. This whole Lenten journey begins with Jesus' own baptism. It is that baptism where he is compelled out into the wilderness. And in being compelled out into the wilderness, It's there that he's tempted, there that he goes through his 40 days, there where he understands everything that you and I go through. It begins at baptism. We do well to remember, as the voice from heaven said, "You're my beloved." In fact, in the Episcopal Church, we had a man who did a lot of spiritual retreats and wrote a whole bunch of books. His name was Henri Nouwen. And Henri Nouwen was fond of doing this exercise at the beginning of every one of his retreats. And I think it's a good exercise. Imagine that voice from heaven saying just to you, "You are my beloved. In you I am well pleased." Not talking about the ways in which we mess up. When Jesus died for us, the Father looks at us with the righteousness of Jesus, not with the sinfulness of ourselves. And that ought to be some liberation for some of us who just think we got to try a little bit harder. Because it's not about us. Tonight, all of us with these little smudges on our faces will go home and we will contribute to doing countless different things that we call disciplines. We're going to go through ordinary life. And in the ordinary moments of life, including all the times where you're washing your face, it's my hope and it's my prayer that not only will you remember, yes, you're part of God's family because you're baptized, but that you are God's beloved. In you, he is well pleased. Use this season to your benefit. At the close of the liturgy today, we have this neat little call and response thing. And this call and response asks us if we're ready to trust, if we're ready to follow, and if we're ready to serve. If you're ready to trust in the one who knows your belovedness. If you are ready to follow in the one who's already done all of the work of salvation for us. All we have to do is believe into it. And then if you are ready to serve, one of the greatest things you can do in Lent is find that one person who doesn't know their belovedness and tell them how much Jesus loves them. And they too are beloved. Therein we keep